What if the Bible itself proves Christ never intended Bible-alone Christianity? Welcome to another Catholic Context microclip brought to you by Apologetics.com. Did you know the average person speaks about 16,000 words per day? That means over 3 years, the average person speaks more than 17 million words. Now consider this. The total recorded words of Christ in Scripture equal only about 31,000 words. That means the Bible records only a tiny fraction of what Christ actually said during his public ministry. Yet many Christians insist the Bible alone is the supreme authority for all Christians. But think about that carefully. Do you really believe the perfect God became man, spent 33 years on earth, preached publicly for 3 years, founded a church, trained the apostles personally, only to leave behind 0.1% of what he taught? Just over 4 hours worth of speaking? Of course not. The obvious conclusion is that Christ intended a visible authority to preserve and teach the fullness of truth. Scripture affirms this. In 1 Timothy chapter 3, Scripture literally says the church is the pillar and bulwark of the truth. If Christ intended the Bible alone to function as the supreme authority, why would Scripture itself identify the church as the pillar and foundation of truth? In both Matthew 16 and Matthew 18, Christ gave the church binding and loosing authority. But Matthew 18 is especially important because Christ also gives the divine issue escalation procedure. First, go talk to your brother. If he will not listen, take 1 or 2 more. If he still refuses to listen, take him to the church. Notice what Christ does not say. He does not say, if he refuses to listen to the church, take him to the Bible. Why? Because Christ established a visible church with real authority. Many non-Catholic Christians try to defend Sola Scriptura using 2 Timothy 3:16, where Scripture is described as God-breathed. But notice carefully, the verse says nothing about Scripture being solely sufficient. And it says nothing about Scripture being the supreme authority over the church. Additionally, the church itself is associated with God's breath in Scripture even more directly than the Scriptures are. In John chapter 20, Christ literally sends the apostles out as the Father sent him, and he breathes on them. Then again, at Pentecost, the birthday of the church, God breathes upon them through a mighty divine wind as tongues of fire appear above them. The verdict in Scripture is actually very clear. Scripture is an authoritative source, but it functions as a tool of the visible church Christ himself established. Some questions to all who believe Scripture alone is the supreme authority. If Christ is divinely perfect and Scripture is divinely inspired, why is so little of what Christ said actually recorded? And is it really realistic to believe that such a tiny fraction of Christ's public teaching contains everything Christians need for salvation? Something to think about. This message is sent in charity and fraternity. Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on us. The Analogy Apologetic here. If you found this or any of our videos beneficial, please hit like and subscribe, and please remember to click the bell too for reminders. Also, don't forget to visit www.analogyapologetics.com for free video resources just like this.